Hey, what is going on? We are live and we just finished up pre-con day for Dare to Be Great, and this is after the greatness. But first, before we get started here, you were right, Jen.
I knew it.
But but really quick, let's big shout out to In Digital. So I want to play this here really quick and then we'll jump right into it.
At InDigital, we know the public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI net goes beyond industry standards, not only I3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
Oh, snaps. There we go. Got that intro in there. And welcome back, Jennifer Poole. And she's with In Digital. And you did the opening session this morning, which was excellent.
I did. Was everybody awake yet by then? We're not sure.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
We woke them up.
Yes, exactly. You woke them up with just your excellent session, just everything that you had to talk about it. That was a lot of fun. And we were talking about in the beginning as we were starting, and the just everything that you put into it. Like, what were some of the thoughts, I guess, when you started talking about the session or really putting it together? And for those who are watching and listening who have not had a chance to check out the session, make sure you do so. The session was called Finding a Family and Home in 911. Why is that important?
Yeah, I mean, it's hugely important. I mean, I think, listening to a couple of the other sessions today too, everybody kind of touches on the same thing when it comes to the culture. And our culture in 911 is it's trauma. It's just negative. And then that's just the field we're in. But we're, like Roxy Van Gunny just said, this is a privilege. It's an amazing job. And we forget that. But we have to find what makes it a privilege, because to us, in the act of taking those 911 calls, this, Ricardo, all of us that's have said in that seat know that doesn't seem like a privilege during that time.
Mhm.
And so to me, and one of the things that I'm so passionate about is just the privilege of knowing this community, of being a part of such an amazing community of people that really are there to support you. Even when you don't think they are, they are. They're standing behind you and they're cheering you on. They are just, and that's just what makes it so important for me.
And I think kind of building on that a little bit. Yeah, in those moments when it's just crazy as hell and you've got these hard calls that are coming in, you don't feel like it's a privilege at that moment. But what about when you've got a kid caller who's calling in, and you're helping them out and everything, or not just that, if you happen to be with someone who is in labor, right? Those are moments that it's hard to top sometimes in the profession, right? You've got these calls that come in, and those moments that's a privilege. Those are some of those things where it's making I've got goosebumps, it's
Yeah.
thinking about it. Those are those
And
types of moments.
they're the far and few between ones too, right? When you think about it, I mean, those are the ones that we get. I mean, in my 14 years, I only delivered one baby. I mean, maybe my county wasn't that fertile, who knows? But I only delivered one baby. So, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, it happened at a gas station. It couldn't be aired on the news because the gentleman was using a lot of curse words the whole time, screaming at me. But so they never were able to air the audio, but they aired the video of him getting out of the car. So there was actually a cool video at the gas station that had camera footage on it. And so it's still, that was beginning years of my career. I was a 21, 22-year-old girl. So it was, something I always take with me. I delivered a baby boy, technically, right?
There you go. Hell
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
And
No,
that's privilege.
that is awesome. But I can only imagine that call that you're talking about right now, even though it wasn't able to be aired on TV, the mom was probably in the background, was super calm, and she was the one going through everything.
She was. I don't even think I distinctly never remember hearing the mom say
Mhm.
or do anything. It was just the dad who had to deliver the baby and who was very unhappy about this situation. And he wanted to know why we weren't there yet, but they were moving. And any
Mm.
telecommunicator knows what do we do when somebody's moving? We don't send help, right? Because you got to have a location to send emergency
Right. Yeah.
personnel. And so I had to get him to stop. And so Yeah, a lot of cuss words there, Ricardo. I think you would have loved that one. We could maybe if we get our hands on it, you can use it for background.
For real, yes. It'd be the new intro for open
It
mic,
would,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, that is amazing. Well, again, it was awesome to have you as, to open up Dare to Be Great 5 and to, share your story, share your life, just a lot of those personal things. So thank you so much, for that. And just a great message as well, because, a lot of times, as you were saying in that session too, is we come in and I mean, you don't unless you have friends there already, you don't have your tribe yet. And also even in the, the private sector, the industry partner side of it, you don't know a lot of people, so it's always good to have someone to, bring you under their wing and everything, and just kind of find those folks that are really that important to you.
Yeah, the smiling face, right? Look for the smiliest face possible, and be friends with that person.
It's like being in school, in grade school, and someone offers you, "You want some gummy bears?" Like, "Oh, we can be friends." Uh,
Exactly.
yeah,
You got any goldfish?
exactly, yes. It all works out. Oh, man. So the next session after that was, Fabricio, and he's the director of interoperability and standards there at InDigital as well, and, he did a session about NG911 and, PSBN, convergence, and it was really cool to listen to him break everything down, but at a high level so that everybody, like anyone at any level of, that knowledge could understand it. So that was really a good thing, and I think that's one of the best things about, InDigital as a company as well, is a lot of people that I worked with when I was there, they took the time to help me understand some of those things, because as I was telling him towards the end of the session, when I was working there in the beginning, I was given all of these different diagrams. I'm like, "Huh? What?" It was like, "Do I
Yes. Let
connect the dots and do
me just
math
draw
too?"
this on a board for you. No
Right,
problem.
yeah.
Good luck.
Where do I color it in after I do the math problem? Like
Right, right.
yeah.
And it's important for to be able to break that down for the community. I think,
Mhm.
I'm sure, next gen 911 is not an easy subject, and it's a world of things, right?
Right.
And it really is. What does it mean for your agency? What does it mean for your county? It's very different to everyone, and you get a different answer on a lot of things. So
Very much so. And so just asking you, in general here, why is it important to be able to understand the technology side of 911 as well?
yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'm glad you're asking me that because that's it's, there's always a reason. Jen's always got a reason, but one of the reasons why I'm actually I think where I am today in my career and I went almost 20 years is because I wanted to understand the back end as a telecommunicator. I sat in a seat for 14 years, and I knew that at 3 a.m. when the phones weren't ringing that something was wrong, and I could call my rep, and the rep would come. I knew who to call when it broke, but he didn't know why it broke. And I'm the only person that's as a supervisor running the shift that has to tell the tech how it works. And so we don't think about that as frontline telecommunicators, as supervisors, and we kind of put that on our managers and our directors and maybe our tech people, right? But it's very, very important to understand what's actually going on, so you can relay that, so you can get it quick and fixed as fast as possible. So I did. I had somebody tell me, it doesn't matter how it doesn't. You don't need to know how it works. You only need to know who to call when it breaks. And I thought, what? And it was a pivotal moment for my career. It kind of led me to where I am. And so next gen 911 affects us in so many ways. Not just the way the call is delivered, but or how you get it or what you see,
Mhm.
and how your interoperability side of it. It affects us in so many ways when it comes to the technology that's out there. And how are you going to use that in your center? And then how is that technology going to be presented to you and safe for your center to use as well? So it's a huge part of frontline telecommunicators work, and you need a say in it too, right? Like, don't put something in front of me that I don't want to use or I may never use and pay all this money for it, right? You want to make sure that it's something that runs on your network and that can be a part of what you're doing in your 911 center and what your end goal is too, right? Because it's not just going to stop with one decision that you make. You really have to have a good understanding of next gen 911 to make those decisions as you're purchasing and getting new technology for your centers.
Very true. And I think one of the other things that was good that he touched on was that, um, the other side kind of knowing what dispatch does too. it kind of bridges that gap and everything. And I really like that he touched on that because that is a big thing. We want folks on the private side to know that and get all as much information that they need so that everything can work well, not just in general, not just for those in the community, but those who are using it for the user. And with that said, I want to tell a quick story.
Oh
when
no.
when I was, yeah, this is something that I did when I was working for In Digital. So I was a communication director there at the time that this happened, and the bosses came in and they said, "Hey, we've got so and so coming in from whatever college that was around the area, and they're bringing in a bunch of software developers and programmers and everything, and they're kind of thinking about getting into the 911 space to create different things, and we want them to know how important that job is, because if something messes up, that could be detrimental to 911, but also all of those who are taking those calls." And I said, "Are you sure you want me to be the one?" They said, "Well, yeah, because you've been there, and yes, we want you to do it." And I said, "Okay, I'm just letting you know that I'm going to be very, very brutally
Mhm.
honest with them." And he's like, "That's exactly what we want. We need people to know." So we're in the training room and I start telling them about myself and what I do and what I was doing before, and then I start telling them a couple hard calls. Not really hard, but just enough that they get the idea. But then I ended it with, so when you are creating these different, softwares, programs, or whichever, you need to really, really pay attention to what you're doing and have that passion and know what it is, which is why I'm telling you these stories. Because if you just happen to miss a period or backslash or whatever it takes for the coding that's in there, someone could die. Or it could mean that that phone call is not going to get routed to where it's supposed to. And I remember the professor just, his jaw just dropped,
It,
and everyone is just kind of looking at each other, and I said, "I'm serious." I said, "This is something that you need to know." And then after that, I shared some funny stories and everybody was laughing and it was fine. I got a good report back, but the professor had no idea that's where I was gonna go.
yeah, I think and people they just don't understand the reality of it, right?
Right.
Until you've actually taken a 911 call and you've sat in that seat for a good amount of time, right? It's they One mistake can change somebody's life forever. It really can, and
Exactly.
that's really why we're doing Dare to Be Great, right? It's showing the greatness of 911, because that we make minimal mistakes when it comes to the great things that we actually do. So yeah, 100%. That's funny. Yeah, it's funny that you say that. That's something I think. What did I say to you this morning? Why'd you pick me to do the opening? Are you
But
sure?
you did great. It was amazing. It was so good. One last question for this specific topic here. When we're talking about technology and everything, and those who are watching and listening, whether you're here live or later on, same question for all of you as well. How has the technology changed for you from the beginning of the time that you were in public safety till now?
Oh, that's hugely. I mean, I think when you go back, I mean, I wasn't, a pen and paper person as a telecommunicator. We had a CAD, we had a phone, but just, I mean, I remember just having phase one, right? So,
Hmm.
and then now where we are with phase two, and now I still travel into a lot of centers. So there could be people on this call right now that only have phase one, right? Or you're just taking calls on non-emergency lines, right? So there are a lot of centers out there that are still doing that today. So I hate to bring that in for me, but that is one of the biggest changes I've seen. Location services has gotten hugely better, right? We can find people now a little better than we used to be able to do that. We're still not, movie theater finding you yet, but we're very close to
Right.
getting there. Um, I think, and then when you think about just the different technologies that are out there when it comes to all the platforms that are available, I think that's the biggest change in our industry. I mean, I think we used to go back and think, well, we had this one radio or this one cat or this one phone system. And that really was it, right? You might have had a recording system, or if you remember back the day, the playback button where you could only go back and listen to the last couple of calls.
Yes.
I think about the Mevos when I think about that. But you know what I mean? Because you could only go back and hear so many calls, and that's really
Right.
how we got it. And so a lot of that has changed mostly for when I think about things. And then just the format has changed for 911. We are getting recognized. I think it's really not what you're asking when it comes to technology, but I think the technology has driven that. So
Yes.
our technology's gotten so much better when it comes to the different options that we have now, that is driving the need to understand 911 community and understand the people that are sitting in those seats. And so our media, so I mean, I say social media platforms are so much more out there. There's so much more media around what we do, and not always good. Or I think we're making it better. But yeah, I think that the technology's come a long way. That's for sure. I do distinctly remember being down and having to do map books. Right?
Oh
How many
my
of you have map
God.
books? Right? Or you think about the TCY phone, right? Those are like, is that somewhere in a museum still? Does anybody still have one of
I
those?
think my old center still has theirs.
Mhm. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. It's a lot of them are built into the system now, but I'm sure there's a lot of them out there where that
Yeah.
that system is still there and you see it and you go,
Yes.
like, it does exist still. Looking into the comments here really quick, Roxy says, "I did pen and paper and it was rough." Ruth says, "We had an electric typewriter at least."
Oh, rude.
Oh,
Yes,
that
yes.
is amazing. Yeah, I had map books as well. So, starting out in Central Florida, small PD, we had
Mhm.
these big ass map books, and then moving back to Southwest Michigan, yeah, we had the huge it was like almost like a big whiteboard, but it had a map on it, and all the ESNs, and you're like connecting it. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
that's the one.
And then heaven forbid the unit wasn't available on that ESN, right? Then you had to figure out, like, say like that unit's on another call or whatever. Like if it was fire and rescue, if you're looking at it like that, or fire EMS, like you had to go down and figure out, now wait, what was the next one? And it wasn't in the book, where that page
Right.
got ripped out or it was missing. Now what?
Oh my God. It's a nightmare. But we
Yeah,
made it happen. We made it
we
work,
did.
man.
We
That's
did.
how we do it.
We didn't kill anyone, probably.
The next session after that was a keynote speaker, opening keynote speaker for the day, and that was Mr. Joe Serio. He's the founder of the 360-degree dispatcher, and his session was called Three Superpowers Guaranteed Success to Work and Home. And one of the things that I wrote down was that he had said was, don't confuse motion and progress.
Oh, that's,
That
yeah.
one that one was a good one, but also, like, the main thing that he was saying, like, with the things that you wanna do, like, what are you waiting for? So
Yeah.
there was a lot that he had to say in that one, and, he had, one of the other questions too that, like, what are your distractions? What are your distractions from what it is that you're trying to do, what it is that you're trying to accomplish? And, like, for me, and I've told him this before, and I've said this in rooms, but I have not said it out loud, and I'm gonna say it right now. Some of the things that have held me back and something that I'm scared of, which is going to sound stupid, success.
Ah,
That's one of my fears, but there's a reason, and the reason for that is because it seems like whenever I've done something that has been I'll just say cool or good or whatever, successful, I've lost people because of that. And I don't know, it may be jealousy or whatever, but it seems like I would lose people, especially in this profession. I'm like, okay, do I want to keep being successful? So it's been kind of scary, but then, I just throw it out. And I'm like, no, I'm doing good things. I don't always celebrate my wins, but I'm trying to do it a lot more.
yeah. Well, I think with success, it brings burden, right? I think it brings stress. It brings all these different things, and I would venture to say you probably didn't lose those people; you outgrew those people, right? And I think,
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
yeah, we didn't, and I think I could say the same thing. I've come a lot in my career, and I've lost some friends along the way. Because I've changed. Like Roxy said something in her session too about being a mean girl. I wouldn't say I was ever a mean girl. I would just say that I maybe was a little more less, just not as inviting, right? Like, or I didn't know how to be inviting per se.
Mhm.
And so I think that with success, it creates that burden of constantly feeling like you're behind. I think, does that make, I hope that makes sense. But like, 'cause
Yeah.
if you have so much success, you feel like you've got so much weight on your shoulders, and you probably know that too from when I Am 911 movement came out. I mean, there was so much to that, and you were hit so hard with that, coming
That
at
was
you.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and yeah, so, but to repeat what he said the first time,
Like, what are some of those distractions, what are you actually waiting for?
yeah, oh man, that's a deep one.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, so distractions. I think there's so many distractions, and I think for me over the last 6 years in particular, I can only speak for myself personally, but I think in the 911 community, the distraction of the negativity is the biggest thing, and it's in private sector too. I think it rolls in both fields. You have to remember that you have to find the positive in it somewhere, and you have to be thankful, because we get
Yes.
distracted so easily that we're not thankful for what we have. And then we just want more, right? We want that success, right? We keep saying, "Oh, I'm not successful," but I forget to remember that I'm so distracted with wanting to obtain a certain, goal or dollar or whatever that is, right? That I don't realize what I have in front of me. And so I
True.
think, yeah, you forget, like, oh, well, I have that today. I have friends, I have family, I have, a great career, I have all these things. So why am I, so distracted with the feeling like I'm not good enough, or feeling like I'm not cute enough, or whatever that may be, right? So yeah, I think distractions can really get in the way, and especially in 911, because we live for the call, right? We live for the radio transmission, and then we live for that 12-hour shift or 8-hour shift, whatever it is you're on, and we say, "We'll go home," right? But there's all those things that were happening there. You're distracted on what you got to remember when you get home.
Right, and we don't always know the impact of what we're doing, and I
Right.
I think that brings us down a lot too, at times, and, which maybe is a reason why, certain people don't go ahead and just do what they wanna do, or do, whatever it is that they might have in their head, because they don't see the impact of the little things, in the beginning, but it's there. It
Yeah.
is there, and
Well,
you
it's like
don't
the
always
gym,
see it.
right?
Say that again?
It's like the gym. Can't
Yeah.
go one time and lose 20 pounds.
Exactly,
you
yes,
gotta,
exactly, that's
you
the
gotta,
thing,
you gotta,
I think that the hard piece of that, and I think also in a way, which might sound weird, but, hopefully this makes sense, is, having the patience. Like, we're in a society now where you get instant, like, gratification, and you see these kudos and all this other stuff, that when you're doing something, um, and you don't see it right away, you're like, "Oh, maybe I'm not doing good, or maybe I'm not doing this," but you are. You just gotta be patient, man.
yes, yes, yeah, and that's a distraction. I mean, that's 100% a distraction from
Yeah.
moving forward and continually to do what it is that you're trying to get to. Because if you're distracted that, hey, I'm not succeeding or I'm not losing that weight, then
Mhm.
you're just going to stop and you're not going to do it.
Yeah, and then shit.
Then good luck.
What do you do then
Good
after
luck is
that? There's
hopefully you are.
Yeah, exactly. So, the next session was, with, Dr. Andre Jones, which again, he was not lying. When he did the session last year, I didn't even think about the time change, and it was, like, 3:30 in the morning for him, and I felt so bad. I was like, "Dude, I am so sorry." And, so this time, I made sure to pay attention to that, so that when it was his session time, which was 10:45 AM, it was like 6:30 at night where he was at, or something like that. So it worked out this time. But his session was fostering a purpose driven culture in the ECC. And he had a lot of great points. But one of those questions that I had put out is, and for you and anybody else who's watching right now to be able to comment as well, how important is recognition and, like, rewards, but mostly the recognition.
Yeah. So recognition's huge. I think, but recognition, I feel like I want another word for it. I feel like it shouldn't be called recognition, because we
Mhm.
recognition what makes you feel guilty for asking for it,
Yeah.
when technically we all kind of need it, right?
Yeah.
I want to call it like, um, I don't know what I want to call it, but I want to call it something. We'll come up with a word here soon.
I know
But
what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, I want to call it like, it's just a requirement, right? But recognition is so important, because if, like we were just talking about, if you're not, it's a distraction if you don't get the constant reassurance of, hey, I'm doing a good job. And it doesn't come in the format that we all need. We're all so different.
Mhm.
I think, when you look at personality types, and it's hard to know what personality type someone is. I'm a super orange, sorry guys. And so I'm just very direct. And if I think you did a great job, I'm going to come out and tell you you did a great job. If you didn't do a good job, I'm going to tell you that. But at the same time, we all like it in different ways. And so maybe that's, a quick, little message or hello, or, you look nice today, or whatever that is. And that keeps us going, right? That continues to keep
Yeah.
our motivation into trying to be successful in what it is that we need. And without that recognition, you never really know, are you doing a good job? Because we're hard on ourselves, and we don't give ourselves the own recognition. And if you do, let's take a course on that one, on how to learn to give yourself some recognition. Because
Right. Just that that acknowledgement of it all, just and in the comments here, there's just a thank you. People need to be recognized and acknowledged for the good things they do. It's a need and appreciation. So,
yeah, thank you. I like
all of
that.
it.
So it should be called a thank you, not whoever said that. Like, it should be called a thank you, not a recognition, because we just need a thank you. Thankless job. This is the most thankless job there is out there. I truly believe that. I mean, you are on a call for, anywhere from 1 minute to 7 minutes, 30, whatever, 10, 20 minutes could be, even depending on the kind of call it is. And they hang up the phone and they never think about you. Your crews get on scene. They don't think about all the work that you did during that call.
Right. Yeah.
It's the news. First responder did such and such. Well, shoot, I was on that call for 12 minutes.
Right.
You don't get
It
the thank
started
you.
with me.
Yeah, like, he wouldn't have got there if it wasn't for me.
Right.
They didn't even know how to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
and so,
news
yeah,
said it happened like that, but it didn't. I know how it
exactly.
happened.
Correct. Yeah, so I like that. We need a thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. One of the other questions that I had written down was how important is empowering and engaging the employees, the dispatchers and call takers. How important is that empowerment, but also engaging? Because I know, at least when I was in dispatch, that was awesome to have the engagement. The director, of course, that person is with all the department heads and doing all that they have to do, but the deputy director is the one who is that, the front facing, but facing with all of us in the front line. And to have that engagement, to have someone come in and say hello, how are you guys doing, does anyone need to use the bathroom, or anything like that, that just that little bit was so important. It felt so good, where even if we just looked over the console and we're like, oh no, we're good, okay, and then they left, it just, at least for me, I always felt really good about that. Like, oh, we've got somebody here for us.
Yeah, it's huge. It especially in the world we're in today, right?
Mhm.
Staffing's still a huge problem for 911 centers, and we're still underpaid, right? It's still unappreciated, like I keep saying. And so the recognition has to come from your teams, and it has to come from your management, directors, and sheriff's officers, whoever that is, right? The crews in the field need to come in and say thank you for what you're doing, because it's just like I said, we've been talking about this the whole time, but it's a thankless profession, and
Yep.
you have to and as directors and managers, even supervisors, even as CTOs, shift mates, you have to recognize each other, and you can do that. It's easier than you think. I think Roxanne was mentioning some of the things they do, like the slushies and the drinks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I used to do gift cards, right? So I would, my shift, and then it caused a problem where only I was doing that for my shift, right? So I'm like, the other shifts weren't getting it,
Ah.
but it was my own money.
Oh, well, yeah, that too.
Yeah. So, but there's multiple ways you can do it, and I think social media is a huge one. I think even if like counties can put out pages and recognize their telecommunicators, I've seen a lot of counties do that, where they're you'll see a picture, thank a dispatcher today or whatever, and you have your dispatcher's profile. Just that their picture out there is a huge recognition. It doesn't have to cost you anything.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that, and I'm so happy that there are a lot of centers out there that do that to begin with. So yes, that is
Mhm.
excellent. Um, Tim over here says, it makes you feel a part of the team and like you matter. That right there, that's a big one. Love that.
Mhm.
The next session here was with Ruth, and her session was called "Meet a Small Agency with a Big Impact." And man, I love Ruth as it is. She's awesome. She's so cool, and just the stuff that they do there. And again, small agency. but definitely having a big impact. So with that being said, here's one of the questions as well. How important is community involvement when it comes to the center,
Oh,
ECC?
it's huge. And I think if anything that shows you, we keep talking about social media, but social media has changed that a lot for our counties and cities
Mhm.
across the U.S., like in outside of the U.S. But social media is huge because it engages the community. I mean, everybody's got some form of social media, and it allows you to engage in your community and what you're doing, and see your people, and see the voice on the other end of the line. It puts a face to the voice. It puts a cause, or an understanding of what your counties do. I think Ruth's amazing. I met Ruth years and years ago when I first started with Rapid SOS, my career there.
Mhm.
And her agency is very high up. I mean, I think she touches Canada, right? Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah. And I
she's up
remember
there.
telling her, "I'm going to come see you." She said, "Jen, I don't think you want to come all the way this far." But I never made it out there to see her center. But it, it, she's a prime example. Her center is a prime example of that. You have to show your community what kind of center you are. And it's very, very important to leverage, even just when you think about your budgets and what you're doing, right, to get your buy-in from your community. So whether you have a board in some states, boards that vote on things, and that gets you money, and those board members are your citizens in some states. And so you get the recognition out there and you use that, and it's huge. It can change your center so much, and it also brings morale, right? Because it makes your center like, hey, I want to go work for that center. They're really cool.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think, from probably around 2016 until now, a lot of this has been changing where
Mm-hmm.
I will say right now that soon, not eventually, but soon, the saying of the most important person you'll never see, it won't even be a thing anymore. And because that everybody is showing, that a lot of that recognition through social media, as we're talking about here, community events, all different types of things where people are able to humanize that voice within the trenches of 911 and really see what it's like, what we do, and how important that position is.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I think, I even look at the county that I came from, their social media has changed drastically since I worked there. I mean, this is really a little off topic, but like they currently have a mustache contest, in case you're interested. For
What?
their fire and EMS personnel have a mustache on their social media. So all that they post their mustaches, and the citizens vote on it.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious, and it's actually live now, guys. If you're looking, you can vote
Oh
on
my gosh. Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to share that onto the
Yeah, I will.
onto
I'll
the
find you the
podcast
link.
page because that is gonna be that is
Yeah,
pretty
and
awesome.
it's voted on a good mustache and a bad one too. So it's not just
Oh, I okay.
yeah.
That's pretty awesome though. I love that. That
But
is
it
excellent.
engages the community, right? It gets them,
Right.
it gets
Yes.
a face. It makes, it just makes for a fun, light of these people. So it also keeps our first responders safe, right? When you're
True.
engaging your
Very
community,
true.
because
Yes.
it makes them more valued, and then so maybe less likely to be hurt on the scene or something.
Right, exactly. And Roxy, right there, the hashtag on there, I got to put that up on the screen because, yes, for sure, era of the headset.
Yeah.
Boom. That's exactly what it's all about. That's what I'm talking about. So the session after that was characters or castmates. Who is running your center? And that was with Rebecca Biederman and Leslie Whittam, and that was an excellent session as well. That was cool. I like how they did that and everything, and the comparison of the different characters, and I think all of us who saw that or just in general can think of a lot of these characters that we've all had, in the center. You've got your Tigers, you've got your ERs, you've got all of these different ones. But one of the questions that I had written down here is how important is it um to take your time with like creating a culture, because at kind of how we were talking a little bit ago about a different spot with having patience with certain things, creating a culture in a center, it doesn't just happen like that, and
Right.
it's something that you really need to work at. So just in your opinion, and those who are watching as well, if you want to put in the comments, how important is that to have that patience when creating a culture in your center?
Oh, it's huge, huge. I mean, I think that like for me, when I go back and think about, like what their context and Rebecca and Leslie are great presenters,
Mhm.
friends with them too. And you think about like, I think about one telecommunicator I had, um, he was an Eeyore or even just like grumpy, right? All the time. And so he was on my shift and, I had to, every day I had to walk in and ask him how he's doing or take time to talk to him. And every day he had something negative to say, right? And he didn't, and it was just continuing. Like I remember I would say to him, how are you doing? I remember the first time he said to me, Jen, it doesn't matter because you're not going to care about my response. Like, and I was like, whoa, back up. Like,
All right.
like, and then it kind of hit me. So I kept on, but I started to care. And that's culture change,
Mhm.
right? Because he was so used to someone not caring. Or caring about his, and it was a lot of personal stuff that was happening with this employee. But, it really, really, it showed him that, hey, on Jen's shift, somebody's going to care. And so he
Yeah.
acted completely different on my shift versus someone else's. He listened, he was engaging, he, worked with the team. So, culture is huge when it comes to your 911 center. And that it falls in line with everything we've already been talking about. I mean, making sure that they're getting a thank you, right? That they are recognized, that you know who they are every single day, that they're included on a lunch break, right? Even that. You think about
Right.
like the craziest thing that we always fight over in 911, and this is where we're gonna eat for lunch, right?
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Starts talking about it at freaking 6 in the morning. We're talking about where we're going to eat for lunch.
Because that's how
And
long it
so
takes.
it does. It does. And then who's going to run and get it? Right now we're a little better. We didn't have Uber Eats and all that stuff when I was working in the center, but
True.
or delivery for that matter, besides pizza. And so somebody had to go get it. And that was a huge argument, right? Because some people would get food for other people, but not everyone, right? And so I made a rule on my shift. If you were going to get food, you got it for everyone. And that's a culture change, right? Because they were so used to, hey, I'm only friends with these three. I'm not going to go run for Jen, right? And that's not right. If you're going to run and you're taking time out of the 911 center, you're going to run for food for everyone or you're not going. Someone else is going to go. And that's culture change. And it shifted to include everyone, right? It's an inclusive thing that needs to happen. So culture is huge in your 911 center,
Right.
huge in your life.
I fully agree. And it was an excellent session. I mean, all of them were
They
great.
really were. Yeah.
And so the next one was with Samantha Hawkins, and her session was called "No Bad Teachers: What We Can Learn from Bad Bosses, Lazy Leaders, and Touchy Trainers." This one, the comments, like the chat, it was just full of so much good stuff, and just the passion and the way that she speaks and everything else, and just talking about also having patience with each other. And here's one question that I wrote down, and I've asked this before to people. We have a set of skills, right, in dispatch when we're taking calls and all this other stuff. Why can't we use those skills on each other? Why can't we be empaths, like empathetic towards each other? Why is that hard? Because we are great at communications, but when it comes to communicating with each other, it doesn't always happen. So, how do we use our own skills on each other to kind of learn from each other, right? For one, but also just basic communication, because that person might be dealing with something that we've already dealt with and we can help them learn, or vice versa. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a huge one. I mean, I think that's what something I mentioned, and that it doesn't stop with the community, right? It doesn't stop with the call. You have to give 100% to your people too. You have to give 100% to your team, and so like you're mentioning, we for some reason, and I think it's shifting. I think we're seeing a shift, and I believe we are. We are.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely.
I think, our culture was you sit down, you shut up, you don't say anything, right? When I was brought into an 911 center, and you don't question anything, and you do what you're told.
Right.
And so we don't know how to be nice to each other, and honestly, we're each other's outlet. So you hang up the phone and it was a really crappy call, and that person slams down the phone next to you, and and you're sitting next to him, and you're like, oh gosh, let me get up and go to the bathroom. I'm not going to deal with that. But so that's the culture, so that we have to
Yeah.
shift that to, hey, was it a bad call? Is there something I can get for you? Do you need to step out? Can I go buy you a Coke? Whatever that is. Because we don't know how to do that with each other, and so we have to teach that as directors and supervisors and CTOs. And she does an amazing job of it too. Like you said, her the way she presents is unreal. But yeah, just being able to just say, hey, I can give the same empathy to that I just gave to the the woman that just lost her father or husband, to the person sitting next to me, because maybe he just lost his parents last week or something. We
Right.
don't know what we're doing, and the last thing we want to do is ever be a weak 911 telecommunicator. Right? We have to be a weak one, right? We're not gonna cry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's okay. It's
No,
okay to cry.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. We have to teach that empathy is important.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Another question that I had before we move to the last one and then wrap this up was, how important is it to see that your leaders care?
Oh, huge, huge. That's a big one. I think if you realize that if you for some reason, whatever you are in a 911 center, do you feel like your leader doesn't care, you are not going to care. End of story. There isn't any way to go around that. There's no, he kind of cares, he kind of doesn't care. So I'll do my job kind of halfway. If my leader doesn't care, I'm not going to care either. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get the right address. I'm not going to, I mean, all these things I'm not going to, watch that training video. I'm not going to invest into my career if my leader doesn't care about me. I remember I had a manager, I hope he's not listening, at one point in my career that said, he walked in and we were all upset about something. I don't remember what it was. And he said, Walmart's hiring greeters. And I think in his mind, he thought he was empowering us to say, like, do a good job. He's like, if you guys don't like it here, Walmart's hiring greeters, and just walked out. And I'll never forget that. And I remember thinking, wow, he really doesn't care.
Yeah.
Right, about who we are as people and the job that we do. Because if he thinks that's, not that anything against a Walmart greeter, because they're great people, but if he thinks that that's what we're worth, and so then that kind of puts this on your weight on your shoulder, and you're sitting there, you're taking your call, and you're thinking, well, let me take this phone, another call. I wonder what's wrong with this person today. Instead of, I matter, what I say matters, the community matters. And if he had kind of taken a different approach on that, it would have changed our personalities and thoughts on what was going on during that day.
I fully believe it, man, because it's one thing to be firm, right, in what you're saying, but if you're gonna talk shit, I mean, and if you are joking, say that you're joking, right? Add that
This was
piece
not
to
a
it,
joke. I just
right? Like, well, I know. I'm just saying that, because there are some folks who will say something and then leave thinking, oh, they knew what I meant.
exactly.
And it's like, no, you were no, you were being a dick. Like, I'm sorry. But but yeah, no, there's others too who end up just kind of being like that. And you're like, okay, so does it matter if I'm even here? Like, does anything that I do, and then you get those feelings of, not, like you were saying, being unworthy of what
Mhm.
it is that you're doing, or just in general, right?
Yeah.
And then it starts to hit even more so. You might start second guessing yourself, and your whole head is gone, because
Yeah.
now you're in your head, right? Thinking about certain things. You're like, damn, I thought I was doing good.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, the distractions, right? It's all a distraction,
Yeah.
from the end goal. The end goal is to be the amazing freaking people we are,
Hell
and
yes.
that's just a distraction of thinking I'm you're not good enough, or I belong at a Walmart greeter position.
But progress. And that's why conversations like this are so important. Sessions like all of the ones that happened today were important, and it's good now as a segue as well into the last session of the day, and that was with the always amazing Roxy Van Gundy out of Kansas, and she did a session called Lead Loud.
Yes.
You were in that one, and I
Um,
mean, you were in a bunch of them too, but we were kinda talking about it a little bit as it was getting towards the end there too. But what were your thoughts? Just off the bat, before I even bring out any questions, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, but all the speakers were amazing today, and I know a lot of these people I know personally. Roxy's amazing at what she does, and it's funny. Listening to Roxy kind of explain, how she's shifted in the culture in her center, right? But also shifted herself. I think that's what's huge for me and what I took away most out of her presentation, because it starts with us. Now we can sit here all day long and say, gosh, that boss is horrible, and that's the reason why I don't want to go work for that company anymore. But if we don't take the time to look at what we're doing wrong and what could I have done better, and then you don't ever shift, and you're just going to take that negativity or take that personality to another place, and that's not what you want. You want to continue to grow. And so as she talked about, like I mentioned earlier, being shifting who she was to be a good leader. And she's an amazing leader, and you talk to her staff and they love her, and she's great at social media too, and with her teams and what she does and how she does all that. She recognizes her teams, and she constantly does that thank you for her teams, which is huge.
Yeah, I agree fully there, where a lot of the big things, a lot of the speakers that I enjoy listening to, because I mean, I'm fascinated with everyone's stories. I'm fascinated with stories, obviously, but it's that moment when you end up looking in the mirror and you realize, oh shit, I might be the problem.
Right.
And right, because a lot of time, because people don't want to admit that, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times people are in denial, and when you finally realize that you might be the problem and you start working on yourself, man, that right there is awesome. Because then once you've gone through your journey, there might be someone else that that is going through their journey, and you can help them out. You can help them by sharing your story. That's that power of storytelling. That's why all of these sessions are so powerful, because a lot of these folks, especially you, in your session earlier too, you're giving a part of yourself to people. You're
Mhm.
letting them in and being vulnerable and just letting them know that it's okay to be able to do this. It's okay to show that you're human.
Mhm.
And a lot of
Yeah.
people are scared of that.
Yeah, and one of the things she talked about too is the leader, right? Being like, and how her, I think, don't quote me, Roxy, what he was a captain, I can't remember, but that getting yelled at, and how she took away what the final words were, that you can do this. I think that's huge, and that was a huge takeaway for me. And there are people in your back pocket that are saying you can do this, and it doesn't matter whatever it is that you want to do. And that's who we are, right? I'm standing here screaming, you can do this to all of you if you're listening and you listen back. And that's what we were all saying in all these presentations today, and what you'll hear this week. You can do anything that you put your mind to. I've always been a firm believer that 911 telecommunicators can do anything. If you can take a 911 call, and you can, now granted, I'll caveat this because we're always candid. You got to do it a little longer than 6 months, guys, right? So if you're a brand new operator, make sure you're out that 6 months. But if you can be a telecommunicator for a minimum of a year, you can do anything, because it is a very, very hard job, and it is it's just a thankless job. I hate to keep saying that, but it is, and any job you want to have, you can do it.
Damn right. It's your Dare to Be Great moment. And that
Yes.
is where we are ending this After the Greatness. Thank you, Jen, so much for joining me again for your session this morning, and just for being you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ricardo. And like I think Roxanne mentioned it earlier too, Roxy. Thank you for everything that you do. The community is better because of you.
I appreciate that. Thanks. Sorry, you're gonna get me all like
Don't cry, just giggle. You're fine.
no, I appreciate it so very much. I honestly never thought or could think that me doing what I was doing in the beginning while being in dispatch and then just going off on my own would be what it is today. But it's because of all of you guys and the support and everything that makes all of this what it is. So thank you, all of you, and for an amazing pre-con day for Dare to Be Great 5. And we've got 3 more days of awesome stuff that is coming at you. So make sure you join us tomorrow or throughout the rest of the week. And also after the greatness for the next 3 days will be held on the community, over at the community on Circle for Within the Trenches Media. And there's going to be giveaways and a bunch of other stuff that's going to be going on there. And I just appreciate all of you. So thank you all very much. And we will see you all tomorrow. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.